Welcome back to our Oracle FLEXCUBE Retail Lending series. In this video, we begin Chapter 3, Maintenances and Operations. Chapter 3 covers the configuration and maintenance required before using the Consumer Lending module. In Part 1, we will focus on the first three sections: Interbranch Account Maintenance, Lending Bank Parameters, and Consumer Lending Branch Parameters. Before we begin using the Consumer Lending module, certain information needs to be maintained in FLEXCUBE. At the bank level, this includes parameters such as interest calculation, amount blocks on inactive accounts, splitting of accounting entries for the offset leg, and site-specific maintenances. At the branch level, parameters determine areas such as holiday batch processing, accounting entry netting, settlement accounts, account number formats, schedule structure, and schedule gap treatment. These parameters establish the processing behavior that FLEXCUBE will follow for consumer lending. Chapter 3 contains 14 maintenance sections. For this first video, we will concentrate on the first three. Section 3.1 is Inter-Branch Account Maintenance, using function ID ACDIBMNT. Section 3.2 is Lending Bank Parameters, using function ID CLDBKPMT. And Section 3.3 is Consumer Lending Branch Parameters, using function ID CLDBRNPT. Let's begin with Inter-Branch Account Maintenance. The section sequence is directly reflected in the manual. Section 3.1 covers Interbranch Account Maintenance. The function ID is ACDIBMNT. This screen is used to capture interbranch parameters for Contingent GLs. During branch transfer of commitments and for loan, Islamic financing, and mortgage accounts where there is accrual for Contingent GLs, balances can be transferred from the Contingent GL of one branch to another. In this process, one leg of the accounting entry is posted from the source branch, and the other leg from the target branch. FLEXCUBE uses the GLs maintained in this screen to post the interbranch entries. The Interbranch Parameters screen maintains intermediary GLs for the different branch relationships. These include due to branch 1, due to branch 2, due from branch 1, and due from branch 2. A description is also maintained for each GL. In simple terms, these maintained GLs provide the accounting mechanism between the source branch and the target branch when interbranch entries need to be posted. Next, we move to Section 3.2, Lending Bank Parameters. The function ID is CLDBKPMT. This screen is used to maintain parameters at the bank level for retail lending. The major areas covered here include bank details, interest calculation, branch transfer parameters, event diary archival, inactive loan purging, and cutoff transaction. Let's look at some of these parameters in more detail. One of the bank-level parameters is include to date for interest calculation. If this option is selected, accrual entries are passed from value date +1 through maturity date. If the option is not selected, accrual entries are passed from value date through maturity date -1. So the selection directly determines the date range used for passing the accrual entries. Notice the important difference. When selected, the calculation starts from value date +1, not from value date. Value date +1 through maturity date. This is the corrected wording we established from the manual. The Lending Bank Parameters screen also provides several other controls. Under Branch Transfer Parameters, we have options such as re-pickup float rate and re-pickup holiday. The system also provides the account number unique across bank parameter. For operational housekeeping, event diary records can be archived based on the configured reference date, frequency, and unit. The system also provides parameters for purging inactive loans. These settings allow bank-level processing behavior to be configured according to the requirements of the implementation. Another important bank-level parameter is the Cutoff Transaction GL. The guide states that transactions performed after 2 p.m. on a day are considered on the next working day. For such transactions, the accounting entries are posted to the Cutoff GL instead of the Settlement GL. So the important point to remember is, cutoff processing affects where the accounting entry is posted. We now move to Section 3.3, Consumer Lending Branch Parameters. The function ID is CLDBRNPT. Unlike the previous section, these parameters are maintained at the branch level. The major areas include branch details, batch processing, netting, settlement details, auto-generation, user reference, schedules, and prepayment penalty year. We will now look at the most important areas one by one. Let's start with branch details. First, we select the branch for which the parameters are being maintained. Once the branch code is selected, the corresponding branch name is displayed. The screen also contains the number of parallel jobs parameter. This defines the number of jobs processed simultaneously when the intraday job is executed. For example, if the number of parallel jobs is set to 5, the accounts are grouped into 5 jobs, and these jobs are processed simultaneously. Next is process till next working day -1. If this option is selected, events scheduled for a holiday are processed on the last working day before the holiday. If the option is not selected, processing continues up to the system date, and automatic events due on the holiday are processed during BOD on the next working day. There is also a related parameter called accrual entries on holidays. This determines whether accrual entries due on holidays are passed as of the holiday itself or around the holiday, based on the holiday processing option. Now let's look at GL netting. Netting preferences apply during accrual, liquidation, and status change. If netting is selected, FLEXCUBE posts a single consolidated entry for a GL and currency combination. If netting is not selected, entries are posted individually for each account. There is also a GL netting status change option, which can be used to indicate installment level status change. So, in simple terms, netting determines whether accounting entries are consolidated or maintained separately at account level. There are 2 additional branch level controls we should understand. First, netting of notices across accounts. This can be used when payments for accounts fall due on a particular date, so that the requests for invoice generation can be consolidated. The second parameter is auto-allocate part payment. This option can be used when a partial payment needs to be processed through auto-allocation. For accounts marked for manual allocation of the partial amount, payment can be made in bulk through the consumer lending bulk payment screen. Next is settlement details. Settlement accounts for processing lending transactions are specified at the branch level. The bridge GL or account is specified for settlement of the debit and credit legs of transactions processed at the branch. The guide explains that the bridge settlement concept was introduced to interact with multimode settlement with consumer lending. The defined GL can interface with the other system and serves as the single GL for reconciliation in the multimode settlement for the external system. Under auto generation, we have the account auto-generated option. If this option is selected, FLEXCUBE automatically generates the account number when we create a loan account through the account details screen. If the option is not selected, the account number has to be captured manually. So this parameter determines whether the loan account number is generated automatically by the system or entered by the user. The next concept is the account mask. The purpose of the account mask is to maintain uniformity in account numbers generated or captured across a branch. The manual gives an example where the account number consists of branch code 3 characters, product 4 characters, currency 3 characters, 5-digit running sequence number. The corresponding mask is @BRN @PROD @CCY @SEEK 5, and the manual gives this example account. Doc 3 Rollist 60021. This is a good example of how a branch can define a consistent account number format. Let's quickly recap what we covered in Part 1 of Chapter 3. In Section 3.1, we looked at interbranch account maintenance using ACDIBMNT and understood how intermediary GLs support interbranch accounting. In Section 3.2, we covered lending bank parameters using CLDBKPMT, including interest calculation, branch transfer parameters, event diary archival, inactive loan purging, and cutoff processing. And in Section 3.3, we covered consumer lending branch parameters using CLDBRNPT, including parallel jobs, holiday processing, netting, settlement, account generation, and account masks. These parameters form an important foundation for consumer lending processing. This brings us to the end of Part 1. In Chapter 3, Part 2, we will move to Section 3.4, UDE value maintenance for loans. We will cover 3 areas: defining UDE rules, providing UDE values, and applying the UDE cascade function. We will also understand the relationship between UDE rules, conditions, UDE values, effective dates, and UDE cascade. So, in the next video, we'll move from the basic bank and branch parameters into the rules and values that drive loan calculations. See you in Part 2.